Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GamersGrove podcast. Today is Monday, March 5th. I am your host, Will, here with my co-hosts, Brady and Austin.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. So, some quick stuff before we jump into the usual bits. Our Facebook page, we are working on growing that as always. We're going to be looking to post a bit more frequently. Any sort of news that comes up on there that's maybe not worth mentioning on the podcast, we will post there to help incite some discussion from all of you listeners. Anything of that nature. We may still mention things from there on the podcast, but it's just a quick way we can showcase some news, just in case it doesn't get on the podcast. And also, we have our Discord that we've had for quite a while, and we would love to have you all join it with us. It's not super official or anything outside of it's the GamersGrove podcast. It's just a place for us all to hang out, play some video games, and make small talk. So we would love it if you joined us on that. We will put the link in the description for this episode. And with all of that out of the way, deep talk
I'm willing
too.
to have some deep talk.
If you want to have some late night drunken conversations with Austin, that'll be the place to go. So don't miss out on that.
I'll be waiting.
But with that said, let's jump right into it. With the games we've been playing this week, nobody's really played much of anything except for me, so I'm going to be doing most of the talking here. I played a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn is a third-person open-world action-adventure game, very similar to games like The Witcher or Assassin's Creed. And it's surprisingly really, really good. I thought I had kind of gotten burnt out on open world games. They were kind of the thing to make for a while there with the yearly Assassin's Creeds and even The Witcher, Skyrim. I was kind of getting over it. So I've been putting off playing this for a long time. But it's great. It's like everything open world done right. It doesn't really try to do anything different, but it does the general open world mechanics very well, and they're all very polished. I will start off with some of the more negative feedback I have about it, and then I will end it on a happy note and give you some of the positive things. So the first biggest thing for me that I noticed was that you can't really climb anything outside of very specific instances. Like there's places where there'll be some rope, and that's kind of your indication that, hey, I can climb here. And I think for an open world, that's pretty bad. Is it just
I get that.
I need to be able to. It's an open world. I can go wherever I want, except I can't climb any of these things. Even if there's a ledge, I'm trying to jump up to get a higher vantage point, like say in some ruins of a city. I can't, unless it is a designated climbing spot, she won't even grab onto the corner of it to pop herself up. She just can't jump up there.
I feel like it's stuff like that where you need to have a rope to climb. It just makes the world seem so much smaller. And something that's supposed to be an open world, it's kind of makes it feel less open world in a way. If it's more like a flat surface you're exploring on, it's not quite as fun as being able to climb up and see the world and
exactly.
More. It's like a whole different dimension or a different area to explore if you can climb up something versus just being on a 2D plane.
It exactly does give that feeling, especially when the terrains you're in are the ruins of cities or big snowy mountains or big valleys and canyons, and I can't climb any of that outside of the places it tells me I can. That sucks, and it really limits you in terms of gameplay and how you go about tackling obstacles, which is counterintuitive because one of the nice things about open worlds is their freedom to go about your enemies and puzzles in any way that you'd see fit. Also, the camera is really strange. So like most third-person games, it's kind of over the shoulder on your right shoulder, and it hovers there as they do. But in this one, I don't know what causes this. I've been trying to replicate it, and sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, but the camera will rotate. Like, it'll shift shoulders to where Aloy, the main character... No, just when I'm aiming, it goes back to the right spot. But when I'm just running around, it will sometimes shift from being over her right shoulder to her left. Like, and it's not like a drastic jump.
It's not like a button
just
or something you're pressing?
It's a gradual thing. It doesn't like immediately jump over. Like, the more I run around, it'll suddenly Aloy's in the center of the screen. Aloy is the main character that you play. And then if I keep going and I keep twisting the camera, then Aloy's on the right side of the screen. And it's really jarring, and there doesn't really seem to be a reason for why that happens. So that's cool. I've figured out, though, just aiming like with your bow kind of resets the camera back to its normal spot. This is I don't know if that's a bug or something they mean to have in there. If it's something they mean to have in there, I think it's a terrible choice. And if it's a bug, then fix it. Because that's not a hard fix either. Just getting a camera to be steady behind an object. Whatever. Also, the waypoint system is a bit strange. And, well, not strange. This is a big nitpick. It's not really a bad thing. It's just I'm really nitpicky. Let's say you got a quest to go to some place. The waypoints will take you. It will take you along the main roads. It'll make you follow the roads. Like, if you try to cut through, you have to look at your compass at the top of the screen to like know where you're going, because in the actual game vision, it will be, even if, say, your waypoint is directly north of you, the point on the game screen will be, say, to the far east, because that's where the main road is, and it wants you to follow the main road. And that's odd. It's again, it's counterintuitive to an open world, because it's no, don't explore, stick to the main roads.
Yeah, it's kind of like GTA's guidance system almost, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. Although
or like Google
in
Maps.
GTA, yeah, but
Google
with
Map and
GTA and Google Maps, it makes sense because you should stay on the roads, and GTA takes place in a city, so it's just easy for the waypoint tracking to go along the roads. But this is like I'm in the wilderness, open world, but it's making me go follow the roads.
I wonder if it takes you to scenic routes or anything though. Like if it's anything special, it's just randomly.
It just takes you along the game has for roads, so to speak, I guess, the mainly traveled areas, and it just makes you follow those. Yeah. It doesn't make you, you don't have to follow it, but that's how it tells you to get to your waypoint, is along the main roads.
It doesn't pop up with rerouting when you go outside.
No, nothing like that. But in that same vein, if I set my own custom waypoint, just say it's some random spot in the wilderness, it'll show me the direct route to get there. It doesn't make me go through the roads. It's here it is, go there. Yeah, so I'd be curious. Bad. The camera's bad. The waypoints are weird. Bad.
What's good about it?
Well, let me tell you what's good about it. It is, like I said briefly before, it doesn't try to do anything new as far as open world mechanics, but it does them all, outside of the climbing, does them all very well. For example, and also just kind of in really cool, fitting with the world type of ways. For example, most open world games have big tall towers you have to climb to not unlock, but see everything in that area of the map, where all the little items are, and reveal it from the fog of war. In this game, that is done through these big giraffe-like robots that are called tall necks that just kind of wander around areas. And it's a puzzle in itself, because you have to figure out how to climb up to them, and then once you find out how to get onto them, you got to climb up the routes, get on their head, and hack their brain to unlock the surrounding area.
Are they hostile?
No, they are. Okay. They're the only robot in the game that is completely docile. They just kind of do their thing. They walk around. Also, the game has a pretty unique way of fast travel in that it is limited. I'm not really certain. Well, I guess I am. Pretty much all open world games do just, if you need to fast travel, you fast travel. In this game, fast traveling is an item that you craft. And, it's not hard to craft, but just the fact that it is a limited item that you need to make, I thought was a pretty cool, somewhat unique way of doing things.
Kind of like Savior Snops in Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Yeah, except better. And then also...
Wait, how so, though? How so?
Because with this, I can be able to craft a fast travel pack 2 seconds after I start playing the game. It takes like sticks and rocks versus Savior
gotcha.
Schnapps, 4 hours into the game. I still can't make any.
I was just wondering how you craft it.
And then clearing out enemy camps, which is, again, a fairly common open world game mechanic, unlocks new shops and fast travel points, which is, I don't know. I don't remember like Assassin's Creed or Far Cry games being like that. So I thought that's a nice little twist. Gives a little bit more incentive towards doing it, on top of like the XP it gives and all that stuff. And this, I guess from here to this, I can talk about all the visuals because the game looks amazing, especially for the PlayStation 4. I was really worried because, let's be real, consoles just can't run things as good as a PC can. But the game just looks amazing, and it runs really well. I meant to double check on this, but it looks like it's running at 60 frames per second, which is impressive for consoles because the standard for consoles is usually running at 30. So it looks great. It runs great. And at least for every every NPC that you can talk to, they all look different.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I like when games do that.
And you can talk to a lot of NPCs in this game. And every single one of them has a different, like, not just in their face, but their clothing is all different. Like they wear like the armor outfits like styled to their tribes, but they all have their own unique little twist on it, which helps make the world feel a lot more alive. They don't feel like NPCs. They really feel like, like another dude that is in this post-apocalyptic Earth. And that brings me to my favorite point about the game. Its setting is bonkers. It is a prehistoric, post-apocalyptic sci-fi game. To clear that up, you play people who seem to be about the equivalent of like cavemen in terms of like the technology they use. They use bows and arrows, spears, stuff like that. They do obviously have access to some technology because it's just out in the world around them, but they don't really seem to use it much, at least as far as I am in the game, which is about 40% of the way through now. They tend to just favor their bow and arrows. I've seen like one actual gun, and it was like a mini gun that a boss was using. Outside of that, nothing. They wear like metal armor and stuff. But then the prehistoric part, I guess, is like there's dinosaurs, but they're robot dinosaurs, which is super cool. And then God, don't compare it to that.
Bad movie.
It sounds a lot like game. James Cameron's Avatar, almost.
Sorta. So yeah, actually, yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it. But then on top of that, you also start to unravel the mystery of the world, because these people, for whatever reason, like I don't know how long it is in the future, but there was some event that happened to Earth about our time right now, and it just destroyed everything. Like they wiped themselves out. And the tribes people now don't seem to really remember. They just call them like people of the old world and the old world, this and that. And you find like little emails and audio logs and stuff that start to explain sort of what happened. So that's, a game within itself of just like finding those things and unraveling the mystery, which I'm all about.
That's
And
pretty
then
exciting.
yeah,
Kind of
and on top of it all,
to add to it.
oh yeah, it's got some really cool, really rich lore. Seems pretty unique, at least as far as games go, for settings and concepts. And then this is one, I guess, a positive nitpick. Pretty much every open world game, enemies respawn. That's just a thing to make sure there's always something for players to do. In this game, the majority of tribes, I guess, their main activity in life is hunting the robots. Like, that's what they do. They all hunt them because they're dangerous. So it's like, when you can, kill them so that there's less robots out there. And so that led me to have the question of, well, if these guys have been hunting them for as long as they've been in existence, which is seemingly for a very long time, why are there still so many robots? And the game answers that pointless question, because you find factories, like big underground factories, like all automated, that are constantly creating robots. And so I thought it was really cool that they even went out of their way to answer that stupid, pointless question that does not need answering.
Can you shut them down so there's less robots that spawn?
You can shut them down. I haven't figured out if that really affects any respawning rates. It does give you like more data, like you learn how to hack the robots to like work for you, and shutting down the factories gets you access to more robots to hack. So I don't know that it like affects respawning, but it at least gives you that. But either way, I thought that was a really cool thing, like a little detail to add to their world that they really didn't need to, because respawning in video games happens and nobody questions it. So good job, these guys. I've forgotten what company it is because I'm so great at this. But yeah, it's a really awesome game. I've been playing it like day and night from when I get off work, so when I go to bed, hoping to probably get 100% it if I can, because it's just that fun.
Dang, 100%.
Yeah.
It's a big feat.
I can do it. I've done open worlds are nothing to me.
It's Guerrilla Games, by the way.
Thank you, Guerrilla Games. Good company. They done well. Well, with that big chunk of video game out of the way, we're gonna jump straight into the news. Starting off with something that's not directly video game related, but Crytek has a cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know more about this than I do, so why don't you talk a bit about it?
All right. Well, I just kind of found out about this recently. Apparently, it came out earlier this year. Earlier this year. It's called Crycash.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of read about it at crycash.io. I'm not going to go too in depth because
We're not a
super
crypto
good
podcast.
With crypto code, but basically, from what I understand, it's to get gamers to monetize their playtime. So
Interesting.
I don't really quite get where they're trying to go with this, like future implementation. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
like
from
an example is like, let's say you're playing a game that has it in it. I think they use like a program called Plink. It's like they developed it and it's specifically for this. If you want to put in your game, like if you get 100 kills, you get, one Crycash, and then you could spend that Crycash on, I don't know, maybe like cosmetics or other things for the game in that Plink store. Yeah, that's like so far what they pretty much said, and but then you could use it for other things like betting, or maybe getting games that are actually in the Plink app or whatever it's called.
Interesting.
And it's only in Turkey right now. Should also point that out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Are they?
Okay.
Is Crytek based out of Turkey or something?
I don't know.
Maybe they just have the least amount of regulations or something.
Maybe.
That's random.
That is very strange. I feel like they are grossly underestimating how much some people play video games.
Yeah,
And
true.
if it's based on that, like, it's that coin's either going to be worth nothing, or they need to change up how it works. I don't know. It's more concept than anything right now. So
Well, they
it's
said
hard to say.
1,000 Cry Cash is worth 1 Ethereum, and Ethereum's like $800 right now. So, a little less than $1.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Also, I just looked it up, and they do have an Istanbul. I think that's how you say that. Location, and that's in Turkey. So
okay, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe they're working on it.
Okay, interesting.
So I guess, do you think they're going to implement this into the next game that they make?
Oh,
Would that be the logical step to take?
I
Hard to
think
say.
the logical step would get multiple games to get on board with this sort of thing. The thing with this is it's just one of those things. It's like so early that it could work out or not work out at all.
Yeah.
Because someone else could come along and do something better. It's an interesting idea. I just thought it was interesting, so I wanted to mention it. And
it is really interesting. It's like it's the future, I guess. Bitcoins and whatever.
Yeah, something they haven't mentioned though is how they're actually using the blockchain, mainly because of just Austin's mentioned when you're talking earlier, laws and things of that sort.
Oh yeah.
Something else I think that this could thrive in is like mobile games, because Plink seems like one of those companies or like overarching things of different games where they have like little achievements in like in-game store kind of things, just things of that sort. I don't know an example off the top of my head, but because I don't really play mobile games that often. But
are you familiar with what
like
Plink is?
No, this is just what I've read. Is like it's almost like not a third party, but just a platform that's like a store and a place to host everything, because they're in the timeline. That's like something they developed early on to like use that for the crypto they're making.
Right on. Cryptocurrency, blockchain. It's all cool. It's all coming.
We will have a link for those who are more interested. It is interesting. We just don't want to delve too much into it because, don't want to eat up too much time. Next up, this just came out earlier today actually, and it is kind of our real biggest piece of news. Ubisoft has declared that they are banning hate speech in Rainbow Six Siege. This is obviously a good thing, but it raised a lot of questions between the three of us. The main one being, how is this not already something that was in place?
Exactly. Why is this not already a thing?
Yeah, it's the articles that we looked up. We found like 3 different articles about it, and none of them really seemed to say much about the process. The most I could find was that they will analyze reports of people using any sort of racial slurs, homophobic things, anything of that sort. People will report them for it, and they will analyze them on a case-by-case basis. Now, if you're not familiar with how online games work, this is just how report systems work. If someone's being toxic, if someone is intentionally sabotaging the game, if someone's being racist, you report them, and they have a system that analyzes it and does it. So why is Ubisoft making a big deal out of saying that they're doing this? And
why is it news?
Yeah,
exactly.
Why are you? Congrats, you're doing something you should have done already. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a silly thing to make the news. A lot of people are talking about it. I don't know why.
Yeah, maybe there's something we're missing, because either they're not clarifying it very well and it goes more in depth than what we think. Like, something I initially thought was like, oh cool, so like it'll track, the game will have a tracking system that if you even type out something racist or homophobic or whatever, it'll auto ban you. But that's not the case. That would make it newsworthy, I think.
Yeah.
If just you type out some derogatory term and bam, you're auto banned. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you could only say this 3 times and then slap on the wrist. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, and so it's either that they're only just now realizing that being racist is bad and they're going to start banning people for it, or this is something that ideally they have always had and are for some reason just now deciding to comment that they're doing it. Neither of those two options make much sense. I'm hoping maybe within the next few days Ubisoft will come out and kind of clarify or give a bit more details, because it doesn't make sense. Like, this really isn't newsworthy. This is something every game does anyways. Every online game doesn't allow hate speech. So why is Ubisoft touting it out like they're the kings of the universe for doing it?
Well, the only thing I can think of is a lot of people were complaining, I guess, about this. And so maybe they're just like, hey, we're addressing your complaints. I guess that would make sense. But still, it's like...
I guess it could be as simple as that. I don't really play Rainbow Six Siege much, so I can't say. Like, I don't have much interactions with the community. Maybe they're all a bunch of huge racists. I don't know.
I mean, I played it quite a lot, and most of the time, no one even talks. It's probably, one in every 3 games you get people that actually talk. So I don't know.
I can't
think
imagine.
It's just a publicity stunt.
Yeah. Honestly, it could be that they're just trying to get more people to look at their game. They have been on the up and up already with Siege, so maybe they're just trying to get more attention for it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It is also something to note. This is only for the PC version of the game. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox still have to go by they abide by Sony and Microsoft's guidelines. So this is only for us PC players, because everybody knows we're the worst of the bunch. But yeah, good job Ubisoft, I guess, for doing something everybody's been doing since the beginning of time. Next up is a game that Austin showed me just a little bit ago called The Darwin Project. It is a new battle royale game that is spicing things up very differently from most battle royale games to date. It is only 10 players for start versus the usual 100. It has spectator interaction, meaning, I assume, in the same, like Twitch streaming and stuff.
It's like, so you can have like a show director type of thing. So basically think like Game Master in the Hunger Games. You can give certain people buffs. I think you can give people debuffs. You can mark them for others to see, kind of like a radar type of thing. And like you can close down map locations to kind of corral them together, I believe, and just kind of troll the rest of the players trying to kill each other. So
Which is really cool.
I'm excited about it because it's going to add like a whole new aspect to the battle royale scene. So I think it'll be fun just to goof around on. And 10 players, it's like, you could get a group of friends and play that, and just goof around.
I do.
Does there always have to be like a showmaster, or is it kind of just by choice?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Because I mean,
I would
it's
assume
kinda like,
it's really. I feel like it's something that's gonna be in the game. Like, it'll be like 11 players join a lobby. One of them is randomly the showmaster, and the other 10 are the players.
See, that's what I would
my
hope,
take on it.
because I hope it's not going to be a thing like in Battlefield. I think it was Battlefield.
Yep, the commander.
4 that started
Commander.
it first. Yeah, commander mode. Like no one used that, at least that I know of. I tried it and it wasn't that fun to me personally.
That's what I was gonna say.
That is the worry too. It could be really boring to be the showmaster, and it could be a risk that, like, if somebody gets picked as the showmaster, they just leave the game and go queue up
so
again.
they'll have to give really good incentives, I think. But I think if they do implement those things that I mentioned, that it'd be fun to play as a game. Just mess with people.
It is really cool. I worry about it though, that you could play favorites very easily, with your friends. If me, Brady, and Austin are in a game with 10 or 7 other random people and I'm the showmaster, I could just make sure that they get all the buffs and just screw everybody else over. So I don't know how that's gonna work.
It's definitely not gonna be like an esport game, I would think.
Which is interesting because on Steam they brag about this. At E3 2017, they were given the best upcoming esport game, or esport, like promising esport game. So
I really wish
That-
I would have played the beta when it was out. I think it was earlier this month, but just never got
Well,
around to it. So maybe
the game
it's-
comes out March 9th, so you don't have to
Yeah.
wait too long. It's gonna be coming out in early access.
Early access,
So
yeah.
Right.
I won't be
Very
playing
important
it.
to mention.
Yes, it's not the release of the game. It is in early access. We don't know yet. It may be free. That would be cool. I'd be okay with that if it was just a free to play early access game and then they charge a price on full release. Sure.
Yeah.
But who's to say? There's nothing on the page outside of just available March 9th. Also, on their something that I was mentioning, not that wasn't the show director, they actually do mention this in their description that they encourage audience interaction, and not talking about the show director. So this was something that I've only seen in like one other game, a Kickstarter game called ICU, where basically it was a game made for Twitch. And the way it worked was the Twitch chat voted on what they wanted to happen to the player in the game. It could be like, kick him across the map or like make his vision distorted, things like that. It was fairly basic, but that was the idea. And it seems like they're trying to implement that here. Again, they don't really say much about it. That's probably that I think will be like the fluff of like, this doesn't need to be in the game, but it can be. So if that's the case, if it's how I'm thinking it is, that'll be really good for Twitch streamers. A good way to interact with your audience and get them more into your game, quite literally. But who's to say? I guess it'll be out by the time we do the next podcast. So maybe either if it has a price, then I will just we'll watch some videos. But maybe we'll get the chance to play it and talk more about it, see how it is. We'll see. Next up, we have Battlefield. The Battlefield developers announced that their next game is going to be a World War II setting, which is cool. Call of Duty just did World War II, and it didn't seem like it went over so well. I didn't play the game, so I can't say, but it seems...
It went over really
Yeah,
well.
it did.
Did it?
Well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like really anticipated.
I mean, yeah, it was anticipated. I know that. I was looking forward to it.
No, yeah, it got
But
got good reviews and everything.
Okay.
Everyone liked it, 'cause everyone wanted all the other Call of Duties were all these jump around kind of Titanfall-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of got back to
things
COD roots, which was the big like selling point.
they went boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Literally.
yeah, it was actually leaked. They didn't announce it,
Oh.
and the people that leaked it don't even want to be named. VentureBeat talked to the people or something, and they got a screenshot of like a menu or something.
It looks really sketchy.
small.
It could be complete bull.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
take it with a grain of
exactly.
salt,
But it
everyone.
makes sense.
It
It
does
does
make
make sense
sense,
because of Battlefield 1, World War 1, and then Battlefield, this
The
I don't
war
know,
that came
Battlefield
after
2, I
World War
guess.
One.
yeah.
yeah,
But they're calling
exactly.
it's like Battlefield 5, but it's like the Roman numeral V. So like, V victory kind of too, and all the symbolism. But I think it definitely, I think it will be World War II. It just makes sense.
It does.
And we were kind of talking about this earlier, but we're going in like a weird cycle now where, there was, because Battlefield, there's like Battlefield 1943, I think it was called.
Yes.
But they made that. Then it was kind of, everything went more modern, and now we're going like back down with like World War II and Battlefield 1, and then we're going back to modern, and
Then
it's,
now it's the
it's a
future.
weird cycle.
Yeah,
It's
we're coming full circle here because we Call of Duty got famous and Battlefield 2 off of their World War II games, and then it went to Modern Warfare, and then to the future, and now here we are back in World War II.
Yeah.
yeah, and same with
everybody loves.
Battlefield.
Yep.
Yes. So but then people thought that the new Battlefield was going to be a new Bad Company game, which that would have been awesome
Yeah,
either way. But that was
would've been awesome.
that was smashed.
That's more exciting
More
to me than World War II.
Yeah. If only maybe after World War II.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I like the unique stuff like in the Battlefield 4 and all that, and I don't know how they're gonna make another World War II game.
unique.
Yeah,
better.
what
I
what
don't
can you
know.
do at this point? Like, even though it's cool, we're coming back to the like our roots in terms of FPS shooters. It still has been done to death. Like Wolfenstein made it different, and it
Yeah,
has,
that's
since
exactly what I was
Wolfenstein
thinking.
existed.
From what I understand,
So what can they do?
From what I've heard is that there's gonna be you're gonna be able to play from the German side, as well as like
Like in
the
campaign
that makes
mode?
sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
you get to play on the
campaign mode.
losing side, which is cool. A lot of games don't do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, true.
That is
So,
interesting.
if
They
that's-
also, I think, picked the worst war ever to do that for.
Yeah.
It's like
because-
would it have you like torching
Well,
Jews or something?
well,
Like
okay, we don't need to go there, but it's definitely unique because I don't know
Yeah.
many games that have played from the German side. I'm trying to think of something.
Well,
I
I mean,
just
think of it like
can't.
this. Remember Medal of Honor, the newest one. I forget what it was called, but the most recent Medal of Honor game and their multiplayer allowed you to play as the Taliban, and that received so much backlash they had to take it out of the game. So
oh, really? I didn't
yes.
know that.
So imagine that playing as Nazis in the time
Yeah,
we
that's
live
way
now.
worse. Yeah,
I
with all
think-
this alt-right stuff. Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
think it is a very interesting thing, and I always like when game developers try things new, so I'm all for it. I just think if it is true, it's probably not going to go over well. Like this would have been a great thing to do for the World War I Battlefield game.
Well,
'Cause-
with the Battlefield 1, they did a really good job at kind of immersing you into different. You do the same thing in that game. You kind of switch between sides, and you kind of get the perspective of each side and kind of how everyone's just humans. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to go too
Yeah.
far into this because like I don't want to step. It's kind of like stepping on eggshells.
Walking
here,
on
but-
eggshells, yeah.
But
yeah.
a game that did this very well is Valiant Hearts. It's set in the
Yes.
First World War, but they did a very good job at making both sides very humanized. And I'm just kind of curious to see how they could do it if they do end up doing where you can play.
Well,
from the
yeah,
Germans.
exactly. That's my
perspective.
point. I think it's a great subject to explore. Of showing that like both people, both sides in a conflict are really just like people. It's a bit harder for people to accept that in World War II. Again,
Yeah, because
considering
of
we're talking
the
about Nazis
ideals
here.
were very extreme.
Yeah. And even though, like, well, we won't get into it 'cause, again, walking on eggshells. It's an interesting idea. I think it's a very bad setting if they do that. It's not going to go over well. No matter
Well
how
said.
well you do it, how carefully you do it, it's just not going to go over well with people.
Fair enough.
But getting back to the World War II aspect, I really like the Battlefield games, for the big explosions and destructions and, all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
Battlefield 1 didn't really, like, get, like, to me with that part. I liked all the, helicopters and, jet planes and all that
And the
stuff in Battlefield
Levolution.
4. Yeah, the Levolution, the weather. But like, Battlefield 3 and 4 are just so good. And, I don't know if something older game that takes place in an older era will really be up to par with those modern games. So I'm just interested to see if they could actually do I'm not saying it's a bad game, but really get you the war feeling in it.
They need to find a way to set themselves apart, basically. I did forget that was kind of Battlefield's thing, is all the everything was destructible.
Yeah.
And that can be
Which, I mean,
done
you could
really
still
well,
do.
In a
Yeah, you
World
could
War
still
II
do it
game.
in Battlefield 1, but it's just, I don't know, it's not the same way.
I mean, yeah, you could take down a skyscraper in Battlefield 4. So
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Have you seen Fury, Brady?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty intense movie. I feel like you could have some pretty intense
No.
battle scenes. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, it's not intense, but just the same way that, Battlefield 4 immerses you, like, like jumping off the
Yeah.
skyscraper and parachuting down and, like, coming down, like, knifing someone, or I don't know. Just,
Yeah, that's true.
It's not the same as...
Battlefield's a bit
is-
more goofy in that aspect too. Jumping
Yeah,
out of
it's- I don't
jets,
know.
sniping another jet, and hopping back in your jet.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Battlefield 1 just didn't hit that part of me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's a bad game, though. But I think sometimes they try and get you with just the graphics. Like, it just looks so cool, it looks so nice that it kind of immerse you that in that sense, instead of the like, not destruction, but just the
Actual game.
other experience, and gameplay of it.
Yeah, that stuff don't work on me, but we'll see. I'd love to see Battlefield give a new take
Stoneface
on World
will.
War II.
Yeah.
Nothing gets by me. Well, next up we have another game that is been announced. It's called Blackout Club. It's made by this fairly newly established company called Question Games, and they are composed of former BioShock developers. Who else was there, Austin?
So yeah, like you mentioned, 2 BioShock devs, Steven Alexander and Jordan Thomas. They
Yes.
kind of led the BioShock 2 development. But there's also developers from Prey, BioShock Infinite, and then Thief as well. I thought that was a pretty good game. So yeah, it's a really solid team, and I'm really excited for this game because the art style looks cool, and the premise looks pretty cool. Basically, it's kind of like a horror game, from what I understand. You have to survive some crazy stuff going on in the town.
It's like a cooperative horror game, right?
Yeah, 4 players, I believe.
That is interesting.
Yeah, set to launch in sometime next year for PC and Xbox.
Oh,
So,
got a while.
yeah, we got a bit of time, but
Maybe we'll see something at E3, or Indiecade, if not
Mhm.
E3.
Oh, Indiecade. Yep.
Both of those are possible avenues. PAX, even. It's got time. It's really, we don't really know anything yet. It was just like, hey, we're making this game, and here's the concept, so
Yeah.
not much to say there other than that.
Concept art looks cool.
It does. It looks really cool. I'm always a fan of stylized artwork. And on that note, there's been a lot of games recently that have come out or are announced to come out, so we'll run through a few of them. The first being Into the Breach. Into the Breach is a turn-based strategy game that takes place on an 8x8 grid, and it is made by the FTL developers, who, if nobody knows, made a very, very well done roguelike space game that was real time. Yes, very, very well received. But so this game looks great. It did come out, I believe, last week, and people have been going nuts over it. It's like their previous game. It is a roguelite game, meaning that you unlock things the more you play it. There is a permadeath sense in it, which means that if you die, you can't respawn. You gotta kind of start your game over, and that's the intention of the game, is that you play the game multiple times because you unlock new things, new mechs to fight these kaijus and stuff. It's like Pacific Rim, I guess, in a video game form.
on an 8x8 grid.
On an 8x8 grid. It looks cool. I'm really looking forward to getting it. Outside of that, Sword of Ditto was announced. It's a act from what, again, we don't know much about it, but it's an action RPG. It is being published by Devolver Digital, who has a beautiful track record of making great games. They were the ones who published Crossing Souls, that game I talked about, I believe, in episode 2. And they've made many, many, many other games that are all fantastic. So we have nothing out for this one outside of a gameplay trailer that we will link as always. But it looks great. It's very kind of cutesy, cartoony. That's always fun.
And it's co-op.
I'm always on board with that. And it is co-op. Can't beat that. Co-op games are always fun. And then a VR game called Firmament. This one is made, some of you may have heard of this game, made by the guys who made Myst, which was like a really old, like 1990s puzzle game. And
Yeah, it's like an adventure puzzle game.
this is their next thing, and it's VR.
Yeah.
I'm always excited for
the developer's
VR.
name is
Big jump.
Scion.
Scion, thank you.
It's a VR game. It's going to be the same thing, I believe, puzzle adventure, but in
Yes.
VR space. It looks really pretty. They released like a teaser trailer. No mention of a launch date yet, but it's kind of cool. Give it a check.
Yeah. VR is always dope. I'm always on board with more VR games. It's cool. I'm curious to see how they will work the medium, because VR is still very much everybody's figuring it out kind of thing. So it'll be cool to see what they bring to the table. One more game I want to mention, Pit People, has come out after, I think, a year and a half of early access.
Oh, that long.
It was quite a while.
I mean, at least it came out. So.
Yeah. I'm really
Audio
happy
games
with
coming
it,
out of
though.
early
I
access.
love... Behemoth makes great games. They made Castle Crashers, Battle Block Theater, Alien Hominid. They make like party games, basically. Games for you to do couch co-op with your buddies. And they're all very fun. They all are very funny. They're... You know a Behemoth game when you see one, basically. My biggest concern with it, though, is that... And this is kind of something about the early access medium in itself. People tend to forget about your game when it's been in early access for so long. Especially, a game like this has been going on a year. It's like, hey, Pit People's out, and it gets a resounding like, oh, who cares? There's other stuff to play now. People in the game industry and people who consume games have very short attention spans, especially with the rate of games that we are barraged with. There's new games that come out every single day, like a lot.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot for a game to hold somebody's attention span and make them want to keep playing it. And that's why I don't like early access. I actually looked at the Steam Spy statistics for Pit People the day after it was released, and it went up. Its playtime went up about 2%, which is like, I think it was about 500 to 1,000 extra players than it normally gets.
That's nothing.
Exactly. So it's like early access kind of, for me at least, I know a lot of people disagree with me, but for me, early access kills the excitement of a game coming out. It doesn't like... We're all glorified bug testers for the game industry now. I mean, because that's what early access was made for. Was a studio, like say an indie studio is making a game, they start to run out of money, so they put out in early access and say, hey, this game's not complete, you can buy it now, tell us if you find any bugs, and that helps them fund development to keep making it. A studio like Behemoth that is well established doesn't really need that. They have their money, they have, I'm sure they're investors and all that sort of stuff, so they don't need to put a game into early access, so I don't understand why they did.
I mean, you could say that with a lot of games, though. It's like, why is Bohemian Interactive still Daisy in early access?
Exactly.
Hey,
exactly.
it's coming out earlier this year, guys.
Yeah, after like
Or
5
later
years.
This year, rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, after
About
5
time.
years. There's some games that do it well, like Warframe did it really well, but they kept very active in the community, and that's kind of something you have to do. I feel like, otherwise it just becomes a cop out,
A cash grab.
ran out of money.
What's the point?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me. Some people like it because it's quite literally people just have I want it now mentality. And so, well, here you go. It's not finished, but you can have it now. But again, it kills the excitement of, Pit People was a game I was looking forward to 3 years ago. And then it came out in early access, and I didn't play it because I don't play early access games. And now that it's out, nobody really cares because they've either played it and had their fill, so they're missing part of the experience, or they just have forgotten about it because so many other games have come out. It's an interesting thing. Early access is starting to change. The industry is starting to realize that they can't just throw piles of crap at us and expect us to front a lot of money and then test it for them.
pretty much.
So we'll see what the future holds. It's hard to say. You know, a lot, even though there's the people like us who don't really give in to early access most of the time, there are way more people that do. So it's a platform that obviously works because they keep doing it. But that really, I guess we can end on that semi-sour note. That's it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. As I mentioned in the beginning, please come join our Discord, come hang out with us. We have lots of games that we've been trying to play that need big groups, so it'd be fun to play games with all of you.
Please.
We're begging.
We're so lonely. And then we mentioned it before, but we will we are, even though it may not look like it, we are working on the website and getting it up and functional, getting our articles ready, so on and so forth. So hopefully in the upcoming weeks we will have that ready for you as well. Some articles you can read from the lovely writers here at the GamersGrove. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Bye.